Hello! My name's Drachona, and today I'm going to talk about the 9, that's this, plus that, reasons why the new Ghostbusters movie looks bad. Now, what brought this on? And just so you know, I'm going to be looking down a lot because I had a lot to write out, so I'm going to be reading it straight off my computer. So, I was in a doctor's office today, and I saw a recent issue of Entertainment Weekly. I saw Benedict Cumberbatch on the cover as Doctor Strange, and I'm like, okay, that looks pretty interesting. So I picked it up, and I realized that one of the topics they were talking about was Ghostbusters, the new movie, coming out this year, as a matter of fact. And I thought, okay, maybe it'll have some new information. You know, I'd like to know more about this movie because I already feel really uncertain about it. But I didn't get any new information about it. I found out that apparently they're going to be fighting some old New York criminals. That's kind of a cool setup. But the main part of what I got is this, and I quote, "In addition to facing down ectoplasmic felons, stars Melissa McCarthy, Kristen Wiig, Kate McKinnon, and Leslie Jones have had to combat sexist social media rants about why women can't possibly fight celluloid spirits as well as Dan Aykroyd and Bill Murray did in 1984. Melissa McCarthy was also quoted as saying, "If this doesn't work," referring to the movie, "we go back and lose our right to vote." I'm talking pre-suffragette. To which the author replies, "Not likely." I'm sorry, but fuck you. I'm going to explain myself, but first off, fuck you, okay? Yes, there are sexist assholes out there who I'm sure are raging up a storm about all 4 of the Ghostbusters being female. Yeah. But if you really think that the backlash for this movie is solely based on the main characters all being female, then you're either high, idiots, or both. Because, I mean, you're trying to turn this into an issue of sexism so that people will sympathize with you. But, again, those people are out there. But are you really going to pretend that you don't have other problems? And that brings us to the 9 big problems with this movie. Number 9. This didn't need to be made. Yes, people have been talking about another Ghostbusters movie for a while now, but there was no reason for this movie to be made, especially not 30 plus years later. Number 8. Most likely, the movie is going to use way too much CG. I mean, you think about it nowadays, most movies like this use CG. I mean, be they like supernatural movies, action movies, there's a lot of CG, and it can be really cool, but I feel like you have to mix the effects. You have to mix practical effects with CG for it to be good. I'm not saying there shouldn't be any CG, just that there should be a good balance. It shouldn't just all be CG because then it would just look like Paranormal Activity. So, yeah, I doubt very seriously that they're going to mix the effects, but I just feel like they need to not use as much CG. There needs to be a variety of effects, miniatures and stuff like that, like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. That would be really cool. Number 7. I doubt that the people behind this movie will really appreciate how important the music is for the movie. I know this is a reboot. It's not going to be the same as the first 2, and I'm not saying it should. But the music in the first 2 movies, especially the first movie, was iconic. All I have to hear is that little I mean, the just right when the Columbia TriStar thing or whatever comes up, and you start hearing those little tones, instantly I think that's freaking Ghostbusters. The music in that movie is just unlike any other music I've ever heard. Now, I mean, it's kind of dated, but at the same time, it's timeless. It just fits with Ghostbusters. You know that that's Ghostbusters. Actually, that made me think of something. What's the new theme going to be? I mean, is it going to be the same theme? I hadn't really thought about that. But anyway, for me, I feel like they really need to pay attention to music. It can't just be, cheesy comedy soundtrack, and it can't just be like nothing, the absence of music. Like, oh yeah, we should just have some sounds in the background. No, you need to go back and watch the first two movies and pay attention to just how much the music plays into the movie. Number 6. One of the original writers and actors, Harold Ramis, is dead. Now, I know that since this is a reboot, even if he was still alive and he was in the movie, he'd have to play a different character. So I'm not really focusing on that. But for me, just pay attention to the fact that one of the original writers is dead. I mean, what's the writing going to be like? Is it going to be more like Spy? The absence of comedy with awkward banter? Just kind of food for thought. Not a huge point, but it is something to consider. What's the writing going to be like? What's the script going to be like? The dialogue. Number 5. Melissa McCarthy is a Ghostbuster. Not only do I think that she's not funny, I mean, regardless of what kind of writing she's being handed, I don't think she's funny. I also don't think that she's a good actress. I've yet to really see her put a lot of effort into her performance that didn't just involve falling over. But yeah, for me, like I said, not very funny in pretty much anything I've seen her in. I mean, and I've seen a decent amount of stuff. I mean, I haven't seen all of her movies, but I've even seen Mike and Molly. Honestly, the writing can be kind of funny, but her performance is not that good. She's not really a good actress. I'm kind of surprised that she got into the business. But, hi, buddy. This is our new kitten. This has nothing to do with the video. Okay, you want to get down? Dude! Damn! Kitten farts. This was not planned at all. Okay, but yeah. I hope that there's no fat-shaming humor in this movie. In the new Ghostbusters. I just feel like it would ruin the movie. But really, when you think about it, fat-shaming humor is all that Melissa McCarthy does. I mean, Identity Thief, Spy, Tammy, The Heat, both when she hosted SNL and when she was there for the 40th anniversary. It was all about the fact that she's fat. And that's not funny to me. I don't find that funny at all. I mean, it's just centered it's centered around her being fat and clumsy. That's all it is. I mean, if they actually make her an interesting character, then that would be good. But I've yet to see her give a very good performance, especially one that didn't focus on her being fat. I mean, and just around the slapstick of her falling over or things not being what she expects because people treat her different because she's fat, because I guess everyone else is just a bunch of assholes. But yeah, I don't like the idea of Melissa McCarthy being a Ghostbuster. It has nothing to do with her being female. It has everything to do with the fact that I don't think she's funny and I don't think she's a good actress. So, yeah. And conveniently, that plays into number 4. The director of this movie, Paul Feig, is also the director of the movie Spy. Now, if you want to see my whole spiel on that movie, you can go watch that, because I go on for a while about that. But long story short, it wasn't funny. I couldn't make it more than 30 minutes into that movie because the premise was ridiculous. The actors and actresses didn't really seem to care about their performances. There wasn't a lot of energy from any of them. I mean, the one person who was the most energetic in the entire film was Jude Law. He actually seemed to care about his role, but, spoiler alert, he gets killed like 15 minutes in. Not only that, but as stupid as the premise is, it gets blown like 30 minutes in. That was like right before I quit watching it. Melissa McCarthy's character completely blows her cover. And yeah, maybe it got more funny after that, but honestly, up to that point, there were barely any attempts at jokes, unless you consider the rats and bats thing in the CIA a joke, which it wasn't funny. But also, like I said, how am I supposed to get invested if it's clear that no one in the movie is invested in their role? None of the actors and actresses really seem to care. And also, the writing. It wasn't just that, like, there was a lot of fat-shaming humor, and there were a lot of really terrible jokes, or, that they pulled, like, a Wayans Brothers move, or something like that, with a bunch, like, boobs and sexual jokes, like Meet the Spartans or something like that. No, it wasn't that the humor was bad. It's that there was none. There weren't even really any attempts at jokes. And maybe for a movie, like a comedy movie about spies, you could fill that in with some cool action, but there wasn't even a lot of action, and what there wasn't really that cool. I mean, I'm just thinking, coming off of the heels, I mean, not really on the heels, but coming out after a movie like Kingsman, which, if you haven't seen Kingsman: The Secret Service, and you like movies about spies and you like comedy movies, go watch that movie. It is a freaking great movie. That's just my opinion, but, I mean, it's so much more well done. The writing is good. You know it's going to be good because within the first few minutes there are explosions and, you've got Dire Straits. I want my MTV. You know what I mean? It's just so much more energetic. You can tell that they put a lot more effort into it. With Spy, it just doesn't look like anybody put effort into it. And I know I went off on that for a little bit, but the point is, the director of that movie is directing the new Ghostbusters. I mean, yeah, people are blowing up about, oh my god, the Ghostbusters are female! What the hell, my childhood! Oh, shouldn't the director, the fact that it's not Ivan Reitman, I'm not saying it can't be anyone else. I don't know who else you'd pick. But the fact that it's Paul Feig, the director of Spy, which, yeah, somehow got a 93% on Rotten Tomatoes, but the fact that he's the director, shouldn't that be a million times more of a concern than, oh my god, the Ghostbusters are all female? I don't freaking get it. But, yeah, Paul Feig is the director. Number 3. Supposedly, the 3 remaining Ghostbusters, Ernie Hudson, Dan Aykroyd, and Bill Murray, are all going to be in this film. But again, since it's a reboot, they can't be the original characters. They're going to have to be new characters, probably like cameo appearances. And, that's going to be a little weird, but okay, fine, whatever, at least they're in it. But here's the thing that bugs me. There are rumors that Bill Murray is going to be playing a Walter Peck type role. What? Walter Peck? I mean, maybe not the actual Walter Peck, but the equivalent? The douchebag antagonist from the first movie? You're going to turn one of the original Ghostbusters, a funny character, into an antagonist? I mean, it's like they want to show how much they don't like the original movies. I mean, again, we're all up in arms about female Ghostbusters, but shouldn't this be way more infuriating? Just the idea of this, shouldn't this piss us off more? I mean, if Bill Murray really ends up being a Walter Peck type antagonist, that's about as close to pissing on the original movie as you can get. Turning a character who we used to enjoy into a villain? But, you know what? We have bigger fish to fry. 2 more bigger fish. Number 2. Let's take a look at who the new Ghostbusters are. Look at this photo. They look like cosplayers who are forced to dress up as Ghostbusters. The only one who looks invested in the role is Kate McKinnon. She looks appropriately nerdy and quirky for the role. This isn't about them being women. I've actually tried to think of anyone, male or female, who I would put in these roles. When you think about it, we don't have a lot of young comedy actors and actresses who would fit as Ghostbusters. Even older comedy actors or actresses, I can't think of someone who I would put in this role. Although, I did hear that Gillian Anderson wanted to be a Ghostbuster. Are you kidding me? Dana Scully as a Ghostbuster? Sold! But, no. Let's put Melissa McCarthy in there. You know, this Melissa McCarthy. Yeah. Good job. And the number one reason this new Ghostbusters movie looks bad is it's a reboot. Seriously? Seriously? I mean, here's my question. Why not just ride the nostalgia from the first 2 movies? I mean, people have been talking about Ghostbusters 3 since the second one came out. I mean, I only grew up watching them like on VHS. You know, obviously I wasn't alive when they first came out. But I watched these movies so many times. I still watch them so many times. And just the idea of going into a theater and seeing the ghost do this freaking blows my mind. I just think that would be so cool to tie that back into the first 2 movies. You know, it may never be as good as the first 2, but if you tie that together, then, you know, it'll play to people's nostalgia. People will remember watching Ghostbusters and Ghostbusters 2 for the first time, you know. But no, you made it a reboot. And so you might ask, you know, if you made it Ghostbusters 3, who would the Ghostbusters be? Well, these 4 are fine. I mean, yeah, I have my problems with Melissa McCarthy, but, you know, if you wanted to keep them, that's fine. I'm not as worried about who they are. I mean, I am kind of, because I hope that, you know, they'll do good in the roles, like they'll be funny and interesting characters, or at least interesting enough. But for me, I don't understand, why don't you just bring in the 3 surviving Ghostbusters, have them be, you know, I mean, they're old, you know, they're retired, but, you know, you could have the premise for this, the supposed premise for this movie, like gangsters coming back to life. That sounds kind of cool, you know, but have it be like, you know, the old Ghostbusters, you know, they're old, they're retired, they can't, you know, I'm getting too old for this shit, you know, and just bring in these new Ghostbusters, have the old Ghostbusters train them. You could even have a funny scene where they bring out the old Ecto-1 and it's like old and rusted and it's a piece of shit, and they're like, okay, we need to upgrade, you know, and maybe they can't get some nice car, but they get the car, maybe even the car that's in the new movie. Just a more updated car. You know, I'm just saying there's so much that you can do. I mean, pull a Force Awakens on us. You know what I mean? Bring back, like, you know, little, like, references to the old movies. Bring back characters who we used to enjoy. Connect the nostalgia. Because it's been a while since Ghostbusters 2. You can't just create a new movie and start fresh and expect everybody to be okay with that. Good God, where am I? But yeah, for me, this is nothing to do with male versus female Ghostbusters. Honestly, I would rather see a mix, but this isn't really about that. For me, it's about completely retconning the first two movies. I mean, just saying, well, we're starting over completely. So is there a new backstory? How much time are you going to spend retreading elements from the first movie, like the backstory, how they became Ghostbusters? Why? Are they in a similar position of not having a lot of money, so it makes sense why they get like a piece of shit car and a rundown building? Oh yeah, I guess it's going to have to be in a different building too. I mean, just so many things that they're going to have to redo and that are going to have to be in different locations with different things when they could have saved a lot of time, a lot of money, and connected with the nostalgia by just making it Ghostbusters 3. But also, I mean, honestly, to the film creators, you have a lot of gall just focusing on this whole sex debate, the female Ghostbusters thing. Meanwhile, you're pretending that the fan base should be just totally okay with you going back and walking all over the first two films, completely removing them from the Ghostbusters canon. Yeah, think about that for a second. If there's one thing that we should be the most infuriated about, it's the fact that the first two movies are being written over. They're being replaced. Technically, that happened in another universe, and this is starting anew. Why the hell didn't you just continue the storyline? Because then you could bring back in other characters. You could bring back Sigourney Weaver. You could bring back Rick Moranis. You could bring back Annie Potts. I mean, I don't know. Like maybe Rick Moranis' character Lewis and Annie Potts' character, maybe they got married and maybe he's the secretary. Maybe he became the secretary, and I don't know. Annie Potts is off doing, or maybe they're both the secretary. I don't know, but there's so many things you could do to tie it back to the original movies while still having a new movie with new characters. I just don't understand why the hell they did this. I mean, that'd be like, supposedly there's a new Bourne movie coming out, which I'm excited, but that'd be like coming out with the new Bourne movie, and instead of being a continuation, they go back and they rewrite the first three movies, and they replace Jason Bourne with Josh Gad, the guy who played the snowman from Frozen. It's like, why? You really think that the fan base is going to be okay with you not just having new Ghostbusters, no, rewriting Ghostbusters? Going back and saying, oh no, all this didn't really happen. This is what actually happened. That doesn't mean that the original Ghostbusters won't still be around. They still exist. We can still go back and watch them. It's not ruining our childhood. But why in the world would you go back and just retread everything from from like the beginning of the first movie at the very least? Why wouldn't you just build off of the previous two movies? I don't understand that at all. I mean, just, again, to the filmmakers, you have a lot to prove. And so far, it seems like you're mainly just focusing on all these people ranting about, the Ghostbusters being female, all these comments on the internet. I'll say that again. On the internet. I mean, if this cast does a good job, great. But you still have to accept the fact that the choices you've made about this film aren't playing to our nostalgia at all. Like I said, something as simple as going into the theater and gone. You've completely taken that out as a possibility. Yeah, I know you're still going to have the ghost symbol, but it's not going to be Ghostbusters freaking 3. I mean, I remember as a kid watching the original Ghostbusters or watching Ghostbusters 2, and I would be jumping up and down on the couch. Yeah, Ghostbusters 2! If anything, you're showing just how little you care about connecting to the original movies. I mean, the content that allowed you to even make this movie, that chances are you couldn't have come up with yourself if it didn't previously exist. I mean, if you made it Ghostbusters 3, you might be able to pull off a Men in Black 3, where a lot of people are like, oh man, how's that going to work out? But it actually ends up being a good movie, at least in my opinion. I like Men in Black 3. I thought it was a good movie. It was way better than I thought it was going to be because it just kind of seemed like, again, like this movie, it didn't need to exist. But no, you choose to make it a reboot. And yeah, remind me of the last time that a reboot worked. I mean, yeah, there are some movies that work okay. I mean, like The Amazing Spider-Man, I think, did well. I still haven't seen The Amazing Spider-Man, but I've heard that it was pretty good. But then I heard that the second one wasn't that good. Just how often do reboots actually work? I mean, Planet of the Apes, shit. There are tons of examples. I'm just saying, you had so much set up for you for Ghostbusters 3. So many things that you could have used again. These characters who you could have brought back just for cameo appearances. They didn't have to have big roles. But then through that, you transition into these new Ghostbusters. You transition into these new characters with their own unique situations, their own unique personalities. It doesn't have to just be Ghostbusters 1 again, which is pretty much what you're doing. I mean, yeah, they may be different characters, but instead of just, like I said, just kind of transitioning into a new movie, you basically just said, Ghostbusters 1 and 2. Psh! Ghostbusters 2016, yeah! I mean, again, you didn't think that people would be pissed at you because of that? You really think that, there are a lot of people, or at least supposedly, who were pissed off about the all-female Ghostbusters. I'm telling you right now, again, the internet! Oh, God. I mean, there's 7.3 billion people on this planet. And the thing about YouTube, and that's just YouTube, the internet in general. The thing about the internet is that anyone with a computer and internet access can put their opinion online. That doesn't mean that it's good. That doesn't mean you have to listen to it. But all those people, not all, but a lot of people can put their opinion online without much filtration. Depending upon where you are. Forums, YouTube, differing levels of filtration, rules and things like that. But pretty much anybody who has a computer and internet access can put their opinion online. It doesn't mean that they're informed. And there are some people out there who just try to start conflicts. They just want to start shit. They don't even care that much. But seriously, it's like, there are practically organizations on the internet of people who just try to start shit. Look at YouTube comments. There you go. That's the thing. You're treating all these supposed people out there who are pissing and moaning. I'm not saying there aren't people. I'm just saying you're treating all these people pissing and moaning about female Ghostbusters like that's the only thing that you should focus on. Really? Really? What about any of the things I just listed? Any of the things? You know what I mean? The music, the special effects, the people you chose. Specifically, like Melissa McCarthy, the director, the fact that it's a reboot. You didn't think that any of that would be important? Especially, like I said, the reboot part. How in the world? How can you expect all the people who enjoyed Ghostbusters 1 and 2, which I'm going to use my psychic powers and assume that that will be the majority of the target audience that you're going for? Just guessing. How do you think that they were going to respond when you basically just said, hey, it's a reboot. So instead of just continuing off of Ghostbusters 2, years later, obviously, we're just going to start over from the beginning. You know, it's not going to be the exact same origin story. We're just going to make up a new one and start over from the beginning. Yeah, seriously. How well did you think that would go over? I mean, I'm surprised that I haven't heard a lot more anger for this movie just based on that fact alone. I mean, ugh. But yeah, you don't have to humor those idiots. The people out there who are pissing and moaning about female Ghostbusters, you don't have to humor them. It's the internet. Ignore them. It's that simple. You don't have to pay attention just because somebody says it. Like I said, anyone with a computer and the internet can say whatever the hell they want with very little regulation. I mean, you can't go around just cussing at people and threatening their life, but you sure as hell can create a rant video about, oh my god, the Ghostbusters are all female and But seriously, like I said, there's so many other problems to focus on with this movie. Just don't listen to them. Pay attention to these things. These things are things that you have to answer for that you haven't answered for. To me, it seems like you're just pissing on the original Ghostbusters because there are so many things that you're doing wrong. And you have the audacity to act like the only thing that's worth talking about is the sex of the main characters. I'm sorry, but fuck you. So, yeah, these are my top 9 big problems with the new Ghostbusters film. I don't know what good this will do, but I just wanted to come out, especially as a male, and clarify that this whole sexist fan base angle is just a load of crap. I mean, even if you made them all male, even if you made all the characters male again, you know, like just different actors, this film still has so many problems. I mean, that to me, that's so insignificant who you pick. The whole setup for the movie is an issue. So, yeah. There's still all these big problems, and to the people creating this movie, I'm going to tell you to ignore the whiners. Ignore these people who are just complaining because they can or complaining because they're closed-minded, whatever. Ignore them and start dealing with the real problems that you have with your movie. So yeah, like, subscribe, tell me what you think. I hope that there are more people out there who agree with me that this whole argument about female Ghostbusters is a complete waste of time because there are more important things to focus on. And I think this movie's going to suck. I think it was pretty much doomed from the start, especially once they decided to make it a reboot. But whatever. At least we have other things to look forward to, right? Like Sonic, made by Sony.
Something strange in your neighborhood. Who you gonna call? Ghostbusters! If there's something weird and it don't look good, who you gonna call? Ghostbusters!
Okay, I think I got that all out of my system.